is there at the party. Everybody's having a good time or whatever, and he's giving relationship advice to some of their friends. And she comes over and says, don't take relationship advice from him. And he thinks she's playing around and says, well, it got me you, didn't it? And he gives her a kiss or whatever, and she says, the only reason you got me is because I was recently divorced, scared, and I had a kid.
In today's TikTok reaction video, we've got a story about a single mom who tells her husband the truth about how she feels. And while everyone has their own opinion on who's in the right or wrong, I'd like to know what you guys think about it. Anyway, let's not waste any more time and get into the mess.
The most dangerous person in the world, we're producing millions of them, and that is a lonely, young, broke male. The number of high school teenagers that sees their friends every day has been cut in half, that we're slowly but surely sequestering from each other. And when we do that, we become less mammalia. If you have dogs are happiest when they're lying on top of you. The worst thing you can do to a dog is leave it alone all day. And what we're doing to young people is they are leaving others and themselves alone all day. We're separating from each other. We're becoming less social. And there's a group of men who aren't received well at school, don't find a source of pride. Auto shop, metal shop, wood shop's gone away. They go online to date. The majority of them get rejected. If you're average attractiveness in online dating, you have to swipe right 200 times to get a single coffee. If you set up 5 coffees, you'll get 1 will actually show up. 4 of the 5 will ghost you and decide later on they don't actually want to meet up.
I know that he isn't specifically talking about incels, but they're the sort of guys who came to mind while I was listening to him talk. While I get that some incels have gone on to commit the most disgusting acts, just like with any group, I'm sure there are plenty of guys who you'd deem to be pretty normal, but for whatever reason, they've fallen into this whole incel thing. I say this because it's common to see incels getting mocked and ridiculed on TV, but whenever I see that, I can't help but think, what if there are regular guys who are just struggling and they're watching shit like this? They'll probably end up thinking that there really is nowhere for them to turn. Personally, I don't think anything good ever comes out of demonizing a whole group because it limits your ability to talk to them and get a better understanding of where someone's coming from, how they're feeling, and what their issues are.
So a young man of average attractiveness in online dating has to swipe right 1,000 times. So he gets validation for 1 coffee. He gets validation that he has no worth to the other sex. He loses confidence. He starts engaging with people because he has less opportunities for random encounters where he has to develop those skills. And slowly but surely he sequesters from society. And at some point, he just is not really savable. He just never develops those skills around friendship.
And this is where things can really start to get dangerous, because when men start to feel like outsiders and like they don't belong, they start to create subgroups and cultures, which often has a negative impact on society as a whole. You'll often hear people in legacy media talk about and mock the whole red pill thing, but no one ever stops to think about why it became so popular with young men in the first place. With young men not really having mentors, they felt like they had no choice but to turn to the internet for advice.
Or romantic relationships. In the United States, 1 in 7 men doesn't have a single friend. 1 in 4 can't name a best friend. In addition, marriage has become now a luxury item. If you're in the upper quartile of income-earning households, there's a 3 in 4 chance you're going to get married. If you're in the lower quartile, there's a 3 in 4 chance you will never get married.
And I'm guessing, in that lower quartile, single-parent households are a common thing, which of course, becomes a self-replicating problem. When it comes to helping young men, we should be having honest conversations with them about the world and how things really work.
All right, y'all. So do you side with a man or woman in the case I'm about to present here? Okay, I'm actually going to side with the man on it, but I'd like to hear what you have to say. So this man and this woman, husband and wife, they're having a party. They've been married for a couple years, and the guy's stepkid, her kid, is there at the party. Everybody's having a good time or whatever, and he's giving relationship advice to some of their friends. And she comes over and says, don't take relationship advice from him. And he thinks she's playing around and says, well, it got me you, didn't it? And he gives her a kiss or whatever. And she says, the only reason you got me is because I was recently divorced, scared, and I had a kid.
That's a crazy thing to say to your husband, especially in front of a group of people. And if those were the words she used, it didn't even sound like something she could play off later as a joke.
And basically, he was a safe choice. And he goes silent. right? And I mean, I don't know. That would be so freaking devastating. Okay. But a couple days later, she realizes how silent and how affected he is. And she tries apologizing. He said, I'll be okay. And then like 2 weeks later, she's starting to get into panic because he will not talk to her. He won't do anything. She starts cooking his favorite foods, trying to do all the things that he likes, even goes so far as to have their kids go stay at her parents' house, or his stepkid and her kid go stay at the parents' house. And then she takes him somewhere that was important to them, and they go stay a couple nights there. And then when they come back, he goes to work for a couple days. He comes back. As soon as he walks in the door, he said, can you sit down on the couch for a second? Sits down and said, we're done. We're getting a divorce.
I don't blame him. There's no way I'd be able to see my wife in the same way after getting a bomb dropped on me like that, because now it'd feel like our whole life together was a lie. This is one of those single mom dating horror stories, and it's probably something guys think about when getting with a woman who already has children. Like most guys, I'm more than happy to be a provider and all that, but no one wants to feel like they're being used. And in this guy's case, it seems like he was just a meal ticket.
And she tried everything. She begged him not to go. She said, I love you now. I'm so sorry. Blah, blah, blah. I actually side with the guy on this, and I'm not trying to be mean. I understand everybody's situation would be different, but the fact of the matter is, and a lot of people are going to say, no, you work harder on a marriage. To me, that contract's null and void because she did not love him when she got into the relationship.
There's not a chance in hell that I'd try working on a relationship after finding out that the woman I'm with was never really into me. I wouldn't even know how to take it if she said some shit like, I love you now, because I'd be thinking, is she being honest? Or is she trying to play me again?
Okay, she saw safety. She was panicked after her recent divorce, being a stay-at-home mom with a single kid. So she latched onto the first guy she didn't even love because he had money and could provide safety. And that's what she did, and admitted that's what she did. And so when he found out, he's like, oh, you don't love me? I don't want you then. Okay, the only thing that gives me hesitation about ending the marriage and everything would be the kid. How attached to him is the kid? Because it sounded like the other father wasn't in, he's a father figure, but the other real dad wasn't in the picture. And so you kind of don't want to harm the kid, but I'm also one who does not believe in parenting marriages. I've seen 4 of them in my own life. Every single one of them have their kids horrible messes, multiple divorces when they get older and all that stuff. But that's a side subject. This subject is, do you agree with this guy for divorcing her?
Yeah. Sometimes, this whole staying for the sake of the kids is more detrimental than people realize. While children may not see or be aware of everything that's going on between their parents, they're not stupid and will often sense that something's not quite right. When it comes to this sort of thing, you also have to think about how things might play out over time if the parents start to resent each other more and more. Will one person start cheating? Will they start staying out of the house for longer periods of time? Will they start to argue more? Will things get violent or intense? For me, it's much better to just accept it if your relationship isn't working out, because in the long run, breaking up may be what's best for everyone.
I feel like if you're dating someone, like, the past shouldn't matter.
So let me ask you a question, just a quick question. If a man has a history of domestic violence, does his past matter?
Yeah.
Okay, then. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
But I'm saying, like, I wouldn't go digging into his, like, ex-relationships, like,
Wait, I'm sorry.
girlfriend.
If you were told by a friend of yours that a man you were dating had a history of domestic violence, you wouldn't go digging? Really?
I actually got told a lot about my current boyfriend. Like, people came up to me and were telling me things about him when we went out. And from seeing his character, like, I knew that was just bullshit.
Okay, you didn't go poking around, though?
I didn't need to, because I didn't care about what was happening previously.
What if you were told that he had a history of kid diddling? Would you go poking around then, since you have a daughter at home?
I use my discernment on first person
your
that ever met my
discernment? What are you
daughter.
do you think that they're just going to announce themselves and all their creepy vibes are just going to come out at
No.
once? Okay, well, let me just ask this very simply then. Would you allow somebody who had ever diddled a kid around your daughter?
Obviously not.
Well, then I guess their history matters, doesn't it?
While Andrew's example might be considered extreme, I've used it myself when having these kinds of talks with friends. I don't know why so many people like to pretend that the shit we did yesterday doesn't matter when it comes to sex, because in every other aspect of our lives, our history is important. The things we go through help shape us into the people we are today, for better or worse. If someone has an extremely decorated sexual history, it's bound to affect the relationships they're currently trying to build or hope to build in the future. I get that we can all grow and change over time, but I don't think aspects of our character or nature ever disappear completely. And when you're trying to create something with someone, you want to mitigate as many risks as possible, because there are already going to be a lot of things working against you and your relationship.
I think about having a prenup. I'm with a woman at the moment. We've been together for 5 years. Frankly, if I said to her, I want to get a prenup, she would be all for it. But I can imagine in other relationships, I'd be nervous to even say the words, because immediately you're thinking about how you're getting out before you get in.
Yeah. Well, and you know, there's a lot to that. There's a lot to unpack there. So the first thing I would say is all marriages end. They end in death or they end in divorce, but they all end, right? And so if you said, I'm going to get life insurance, it would be foolish for someone who's with you to say, wait, are you planning on dying soon? No, but in the event that I do, I'd like to make sure that things are taken care of in a certain way. And in the event that I do, there's going to be enough things to be upset and sad about for the people around me. So I'd like them to have one less thing, and I also know that there's a possibility. I hope I won't, but there's a possibility that I'm going to die in an hour. So I'd really hope it doesn't happen. But I can't say it's definitely not going to happen. So it's okay to say, hey, look, you know what? I hope this never happens. But if it did, what do we owe each other? What would you need? It's not just a conversation about what do I want to keep? What am I entitled to keep? It's also, well, what would you need?
The thing about having a prenup is you're going to have one whether you create your own or not. If you don't create your own terms for your divorce, you'll be subject to whatever the laws are in your area if things with your partner don't work out. There's too much Disney talk around love and marriage, which can make people who are very well off make very silly decisions. If you find that having that prenup talking is tough, maybe it's something you should make clear very early on in the relationship so that you and your partner can get on the same page about things. When someone has nothing to lose through a divorce, it's very easy for them to make noise about not wanting to get a prenup. If you feel like you'd have a lot to lose if your marriage went south, there's nothing wrong with trying to protect what you've built. Anyway, I'm gonna end this with a clip from Shits and Gigs, so you don't walk away from this video feeling all down and shit.
When did you realize the relationship was over? When I called her and her mum answered saying, give up. When she walked by me naked and I couldn't have cared less. Fam? Couldn't have cared less. When I feel like this one will vex you.
Oh, go.
When the cereal was put back far less than ample serving size.
Oh, fam? I swear down. That's
Fight talk.
100%
That is fight talk.
You put the whole box of cereal in there, and this is how you know how I know it was empty? Because you didn't even bother folding in folding in the bag.
The bag.
You didn't scrumple the bag up. It's just open.
Sometimes, when a relationship's run its course, you just know, so you have to have the strength to let that shit go because there's no benefit to hanging on. Anyway guys, I'm gonna wrap things up there, but if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. And if you want to share your own thoughts, hit up the comments section.